All right, today we're diving into one of the most incredible stories happening inside our own bodies. It's about this powerful, kind of hidden communication network that connects what we eat, the trillions of microbes in our gut, and, you guessed it, the super complex wiring of our brain. This is a story about how our diet might be shaping us in ways we're only just, and I mean just, beginning to wrap our heads around.
So let's just kick things off with a huge question. What if the food you ate when you were a kid, during those super important years, didn't just, help you grow taller? What if it was actually building the very structure of the communication systems in your body, influencing how well your brain talks to itself and how tough your gut is when it's under stress? Well, that's the exact mystery we're going to try and solve today. At the heart of all this is something called the gut-brain axis. Now, don't think of this like a one-way street. It's more like a constant, super fast conversation happening back and forth. It's this wild network where your gut microbes are nonstop sending and receiving messages to your brain using hormones, immune signals, even direct nerve hookups. And the crazy part? It's happening in all of us, right this second.
Okay, so to figure out how diet messes with this incredibly complex conversation, scientists had a problem. They needed to find a place where they could basically isolate the signal from all the noise of modern life. They needed a unique, natural experiment, somewhere with very few distractions that could screw up the results.
And they found it, in the highlands of Guerrero, Mexico, with the Mfa people. This is an indigenous community whose traditional non-Western lifestyle gave them this just perfect window into the relationship between what you eat, what's in your gut, and what's happening up in your brain.
What made this community so perfect for a study is that so many things that are usually all over the map from person to person, things like modern medicine, income, even access to technology, are incredibly similar for pretty much everyone there. All these factors were already controlled by default, which is what makes this research so powerful.
So with all those other things being the same, one crucial variable really stood out: the diet. Now, everybody's basic diet came from farming and foraging, but, and this is the key, there was a real difference in how much animal protein and lipids the kids were getting. This was the one thing that was different, often depending on if a family had a successful hunt or for a special occasion.
So, the scene is set. The researchers have their perfect location and they have their key variable. But to crack this case, they needed a totally new kind of tool, a new way to look at not just the individual pieces of the puzzle, but the strength of the entire system all at once.
Because here's the thing, old school science was great at making lists, right? Like here are all the bacteria in the gut, or here are the parts of the brain that are lighting up. But the real magic, the real insight, comes from understanding the interactions. It's not just about who's at the party, it's about how well they're all talking to each other and working together.
I mean, just try to picture that for a second. You've got this absolutely chaotic web of billions of bacteria and trillions of neural connections. It's just a storm of information. How in the world do you find the most important pathways in the middle of all that? Well, the answer comes from this brilliant tool from something called network theory. It's called the minimum spanning tree, or MST. The best way to think about it is like this. Imagine you have a giant map with thousands and thousands of roads connecting every single city. The MST is the algorithm that finds the absolute shortest and most essential set of highways you would need to keep every single city connected. It basically reveals the core infrastructure of the whole system.
And that's the power of the MST. It takes that messy, chaotic web of data and just boils it down to its most critical backbone. It turns pure chaos into a clear, measurable network. And get this, it gives scientists one single, powerful number that represents the overall connectivity of the entire system. Pretty cool, right?
So you can probably guess what happened next. The researchers took this incredible tool and pointed it at the gut and brain data from the Mfa children. And what they found was, honestly, it was startling.
First up, the gut. And here's the big twist. The types of bacteria and even the diversity of the bacteria, almost identical between the kids who ate more animal products and those who ate less. So what changed wasn't what was there, but how well all those bacteria worked together. Their network connectivity was just worlds apart.
And you can see it right here. The children with a higher intake of animal protein and lipids had a gut microbial network that was way more connected, way more robust. But in contrast, the kids with lower intake, you can see a huge drop in that connectivity.
How big of a drop are we talking about? For the group with low lipid intake, the connectivity of their entire gut network plummeted by over 51%. That's not a small difference. That is a massive change in the fundamental structure of their gut ecosystem.
But this is where the story gets really mind-blowing.
The researchers then took the exact same MST analysis and used it on the children's brainwave data. And what did they find? A remarkably similar pattern. The diet wasn't just affecting the gut network. That same pattern was showing up in the brain.
And here it is again. Kids with higher animal nutrient intake showed stronger, more efficient brain network connectivity. And the kids with lower intake? They show that same drop. It was almost like the strength of the communication network in the gut was being perfectly mirrored by the strength of the communication network in the brain.
So, okay, we've got these big drops in connectivity in both the gut and the brain. But what does that actually mean? Why should we even care about these strong, efficient connections? What's the real-world impact on our health?
Well, in the brain, higher connectivity is basically a sign of efficiency. It's linked to these optimal brainwave patterns, alpha and beta rhythms that help regulate how we process information. A really well-connected brain is one where information flows smoothly to the right place at the right time, which, as you can imagine, is absolutely crucial for things like focus and tackling tough mental tasks.
And you know what? It's a very similar story down in the gut. A highly connected microbial network means you have a more stable, more resilient ecosystem. It's just better equipped to handle disturbances, whether that's from stress, a bad meal, or getting sick. It simply has a stronger capacity to bounce back from pretty much anything you throw at it.
The authors of the study, they didn't mince words. They put it bluntly, saying that a diet low in these key animal nutrients, especially during childhood, could lead to a systemic loss of health in both the gut and the brain, with consequences that could potentially last a lifetime.
So if we boil it all down, the crucial point is this. Nutrients from our food, especially things like animal proteins and lipids, they aren't just calories. They are literally the building blocks. They are what our body uses to construct and to strengthen the very backbone of our most important communication networks.
And that leaves us with one last, pretty vital question to think about. If the food we eat, especially when we're kids, is literally building the infrastructure for a lifetime of communication between our gut and our brain, what are we building our future on?